I used to work with him after I got out of drugs. Charles, I remember his name later, but he was from St. Louis too. And he moved to Long Island. But anyway, we were all in the band. Well, good thing they were there because we don't know how we got home. Because we out there. You got to imagine all these. Here these kids out here going around on a skating rink.
You're in the center of the skating rink?
No.
You're in a band?
The band is standing right here by the skating ring. Say like the big ring here, like a football, like around a football field. We're right here on this edge.
Okay.
So we playing. I look around and Thomas is putting down his bass. Thomas is playing upright bass, right? So he puts the bass on the floor. That wasn't the problem. The problem, he got on top of the bass and started holding it. I'm playing drums and laughing at him. But then all of a sudden I stopped playing drums and grabbing the snare because I'm holding the snare too. Because we levitating like.
Was gravity weakening?
Oh, gravity had gone. And Hicks was on it. Hicks was playing piano. So the next day, and this was something I never did it again. But it just gives you an idea of the way life was. We tried everything. Anything people told us not to do, we figured, how in the hell they gonna tell us not to do it? Since everything else they told us not to do turned out to be wonderful anyway. Like you say, like, don't have sex until you're married. And all the stuff, all the taboos, all the sins. So there's a reason for it. So we tried this shit, but I never took that shit again now, because for 16 hours you can't come down.
Mm-hmm.
That is not conducive. Like I've heard, I never had crack, but I've heard that's probably a reason. But I know musicians who told me, said, "Man, don't never mess with it. It's not for musicians. You can't play on it." And there are certain drugs that are just conducive for bringing the mind, body, and spirit to a point where it's just all functioning beyond your expectations. Beyond your expectations. And the same thing can happen. You can have that feeling, but it requires what we were talking about earlier. A hell of a lot of jogging. It's a euphoric state that's can either be gotten to external input, mm-hmm. or through manipulating the body. It is possible, but those are only two ways that I've experienced to happen like that. Where, or getting to know. So you had this period where all those people, almost, not all, but it'd be easier for me to name off the musicians on those album covers who didn't get high.
Blue Note albums.
Right. Who weren't, I'm talking about addicted to heroin. I mean, you open up and there's Sonny Clark. Then you got Dexter Gordon. And then you got Jackie McLean. They just go on, and you got you got Hank Mobley, you got Lee Martin, you got Art Blakely. He didn't. One of his biggest records, Moaning, right? He didn't went and become a Muslim. He pick him up a Muslim named Boo Hainer.
Right.
Shave his head, got on a bow tie, right? But by the time he making the record, he all strung out again.
So I'm up there teaching jazz history.
Mm-hmm.
And the students say, was this music great because they did so much of that?
No.
What should I say?
It wasn't great because they did that. That was a part of what they did. But you have to look at the whole element, the whole environment of it. It had its unique environment. You can't go back to anything because we keep making progress. Our main mode of economics, of capitalism. So you're talking about a time when people played acoustic instruments. You're talking about a time when the drum sets were small. It was easy to move around. You're talking about a time between television had totally locked in the mind, and got us to this point where what's that phrase they use where you people mentality is so quick, because it's like you go from one subject to another, like flicking the channel.
ADD.
Whatever they
short attention span.
Short attention span is the word I'm looking. Right.
Right.
You're talking at a time when the country was totally still feeling safe as opposed to any outside threat. You are talking about a time when the World War II veterans, the government had given these houses here. Good example.
I mean, this neighborhood or this house?
This whole neighborhood.
Whole neighborhood.
All these neighborhoods, you look and see these kind of houses. These are veteran houses.
Mm-hmm.
They gave veterans money to go to college. So you had this period of new things coming about, different designs in cars, colors put on cars. When I was growing up, living over on near Rosedale and Evidence, over on Rosedale, me and my mother used to sit out and count cars, but all of them were black except every once in a while, and it might not take a few days. Here come a one that might have been dark maroon or something. It's shiny, so obviously it must belong to somebody who had money to have one painted the way because all the cars were black.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about a music that came about, this laden with gospel as this element of emotional training, and gospel as a lot of the foundational training for us, the chords and so forth. You listen to people like Horace Silver, and you had people still with a sense of hope. Now, in the community, you have to remember that when radio came in and they used to make these broadcasts, Duke Ellington and them got broadcast. So all this played up to what came up to where bebop was like the top of the mountain of this shit. It was like the culmination of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
You had bands that were working and musicians who were working. Now, making money, not like it became later, say around the 70s. All right, Miles started making money. But Miles was from a wealthy family in the first place.
We're talking about the 50s.
In the 50s, you had this situation where people were working but not making money. It wasn't that big thing. It was like, what was the most crown jewel of the black man in his community? A jazz musician was a very well-respected artist.
Mm-hmm.
He was somebody who could travel around, knew the cities. We're talking about a time, if you go back to that time period, a lot of people didn't travel like they do now. I mean, we didn't have so the black musician was very well respected. I heard him on the radio. I mean, remember how, you have to think, well, it's not because you're too young, but Joe Louis.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about people who gave black people hope, who had looked like, yes, it is a possibility to be treated equal, to be totally a part of this American culture environment that we're working in every day, and treated badly, but still doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like it might be an opening, like might be a little beam at the end of the tunnel. Jazz was the music that allowed for people to have something to feel good about. Before, I just almost think the name, last name was Young. Was the first black fellow that played football. You know, I remember my father took me to a football game out at TCU. Black people couldn't go to TCU. The only reason we could go to TCU that day was because somebody from Baltimore or somewhere was on one of those teams, Lenny something. And it was such a rare for a black cat to be on a football team.
college team from back east.
Back and so what it was jazz musicians were the only people who were really black men who were really, you know, above just being a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer and you know, not a millionaire, but doing something that actually got the attention of white people.
And they were in the public eye. You could be a doctor or a lawyer, but
not be in the public eye.
not on the radio.
Not on the radio. People didn't have an elixir. I mean, you'd be a lot of several, Dr. Glenn, Dr. Brooks, Dr. Broadsley, and so, but only one Duke Ellington. So when Duke Ellington come to town, the people would come. They had nothing else to go to. I mean, I remember my father opening a bowling alley later, but the whites had bowling alleys. We could go, when I was going, sometimes people could go to a drive-in one night, I think, out of a week, about 1 or 2 nights out of a month or something like that. But whites could go every night. Mm-hmm. A lot of the things, and you had these people working now, but they had a little extra, and they, you know, striving and buying. They had the Sunday go meeting suits. Mm-hmm. And you know, people were still highly respected. I mean, I used to play at the over at the place over in Dallas. I can't remember the name of it. The Red Top with James Clay in there. Dallas Woodman Hall. Mm-hmm. That was a Sunday evening afternoon deal. Bring your own bottle. You know, and the man who what's his name who sat over there, he sold ice and soft drinks and stuff like that, and had the cups and everything. Man, this place be packed. 4 o'clock we started playing on every Sunday.
That's what we had in Baltimore, Left Bank Jazz Society.
I played there
cool.
with Gary Bartz.
Gary, he's from Baltimore.
I know he is. I just saw him at Hicks Funeral. Gary Bartz, Mickey Bass, John Hicks, and myself made a recording at Columbia for the fellow who set up Sound Ideas. The record never was put out, but Mickey Bass still had the recording. That was the first recording I made in New York City. It was the first. I mean, it never came out, but it was the first recording I made. But yeah, we used to play over there and be packed. And, you know, I'm trying to say it was a thing to do at that time. Mm-hmm. It was like our, now black people can go to, everybody can go to the stadium over there and watch the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. But you have to remember at a point it wasn't like that. Is that my doorbell?
Yeah. I'm going to pause.
And, yeah.